So welcome. As always, this is such a special pleasure for me to have an opportunity to share with you. And I decided this week that I wanted to share with you what's behind what kept me passionate all these years since I first left the path of in 1983. I had graduated from the Feldenkrais 4-year training with Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais in San Francisco at the Humanistic Psychology Institute. And I had been working with humans and horses with the Feldenkrais method with great pleasure and joy and success. And then 1983, I was giving a workshop, a weekend workshop at the Delaware Equine Veterinary Clinic of Dr. Matthew McKay Smith and Dr. Danny Marks, who were personal friends of mine. And on that weekend, that's when I left the beautiful Feldenkrais world as a focus. Of course, I still always do it, and follow the path of the circular TTouches, which came, I now know, from the quantum field, from divine source. Where else? Everything comes from there. And I'd like to tell you how this kind of all happened. And so I made just a few slides on a PowerPoint to give you an idea of how I became interested in this whole brain. Because I want to start off by saying that when we do any 1 1/4 circles, when the basis of that is the face of a clock with the numbers on it, and the numbers, anytime we put numbers on something or have a specific method of doing something, that
why do you need to go to concrete?
Nora asked me to run an errand there and said it can be tricky to find.
Sorry, I
Sure, I can walk you there now.
Mute everybody. Sorry, I thought I had you all muted. Sorry, I have to get back because I just start this flow intuitively, so I'm stopped for a moment here. So when I started following, I know what I wanted to share with you today was how I became interested in the concept of the whole brain learning, because each time we move the skin in a circle and a quarter, or we do the heart hug and we visualize a clock that we take off the wall and put on our chest. In every TTouch circle, there is this activation of whole brain. And the reason I say that is that when we have a clock and we put numbers on that clock, the numbers activate our logical left side of the brain. And that's, we have to have that. But there's a problem in our society, and that is most of us who go through school in a normal way only have the focus on the left brain, logic. And we're missing that whole right brain. And why is that so important in this day and age? Because the right brain is responsible, you all, for our feeling. And what's been interested through COVID has been this awareness that there is what they call a feeling deficit syndrome. Because of, COVID really exacerbated this thing. We didn't hug, we didn't shake hands, we didn't touch people. And so we need to get our feeling back. And that's where for me, this whole work is with humans is a gift from the animals, because they're the ones who brought these TTouches to us. And the fact that I've given these different parts of the hands animal names, so that each time you do the raccoon TTouch or the clouded leopard TTouch or any of these TTouches, we're bringing the spirit of the animals into our awareness. And there's another whole interesting syndrome that has become apparent during, or focused on during this COVID, and that is
I'll buy it.
Great, 11,000, like we agreed.
Nature.
It's a little
Because
steep, but I'll tell you what I'm gonna do.
I don't understand, sorry, how. Marnie, can you please watch that and make sure that, just look at everybody and see that they're muted because it's apparently not working. So, and you know, this is part of life. Interruptions, we'll just keep us focused on this thing of in our hands. The fact that we've given different parts of the hands, all it means is as you use a part of your hand, you're actually bringing a different spirit of a different animal into our awareness as it's part of our body. And that's why it's kind of fun to learn the different TTouches and the different parts of the hand. And when I first started developing this, we had numbers 1 to 5 of different parts of the fingers. And then, oh my goodness, it's thanks to Marnie Reeder, who is assisting me here, that I was leading a workshop in Australia, and we were all camping at a beautiful place called Crystal Waters, a ranch in Australia. And Marnie in the morning was leading us through these beautiful Tai Chi movements. And they had these lovely names of the cloud and the horse and these different names. And I thought, we have to give these names, these different parts of the hands we're using, we have to give them animal names. And I had no idea, of course, at the time, that it was so important that we bring the awareness of the animal, the spirit of the animal, in as part of our body, as a part of us. And so what I wanted today to bring is, wait a minute, how did I get this interest in the awakened mind? So I'm going to just show you, I just put together a little PowerPoint that will kind of guide you through the process. So let's see, I'm going to go to screen share. And then, come on. Okay. Nice. Come on, screen. Be nice to me. I've got so much stuff, you know, from there. Get rid of this here. It's hiding behind everything here. Let's see. Got to get you out of the way. Come on. Share the screen. Now, can you see this? Marnie, can you unmute and tell me if you can see this?
Yeah, you can see it, but it's small. It could be expanded.
Let's get that. How's that?
Much better.
Well, that's filling my whole screen. So what started me on the path of the interest in left and right hemispheres was a workshop I was invited to. It was quite an interesting kind of meant to be, but certainly important. And this was 1972 at Esalen Institute. I was invited to do a workshop with Robert Monroe of the Monroe Institute. And I just went up and I wanted to bring some image up from the Monroe Institute in Virginia. And they talk about the gateway experience. And what we did was listen to this hemisync music like the whole weekend. And it was taking us out of the body into other realms. And that was the whole concept of going beyond the logical mind and seeing where it would take us for other experiences. And during that weekend, Dr. Russell Tark was there from Stanford Research Institute, measuring activation of left and right hemispheres. And what surprised me was he told me that I had very close to a balance of both left and right hemispheres. And so I'd never heard of this before. And so I found a book called Drawing with the Right Side of the Brain. And it's by, oh, come on, I always have her. Anyway, it's very famous. And if you're interested,
I'll get it. I have.
Thanks, Marnie. Yeah. Betty Edwards actually is, now that I think about it. And so she had all these exercises to activate the right hemisphere. And so they're like, for months, I did this thing where you write your name in the air backwards with the right hand and the left hand. And I did a lot of these for months just to really focus on that right brain. And so the next thing that happened to me is that I was giving a workshop. See if I can get this in Santa Fe, and Anna Wise came to that workshop, and Anna Wise came up to me after the workshop, after the demo, it was a demonstration, and said that she was studying what was called the awakened mind state, and that she believed that I was working in this awakened mind when I was doing TTouch with the horses. And so she asked me if she could measure my brain waves with the mind, it's called the awakened mind EEG program. And in those days, it measured beta, alpha, theta, and delta in both hemispheres. And when she measured me, what she found, which actually I've had 2 other researchers find the same thing, in the quiet state, when you're just sitting there not thinking, I have a great deal of theta brainwaves activated. And this is why, it's a connection to the spiritual realms. And that's where I feel like I live. I feel that connection that we all have, whether we access it or not. And the connection to being one with all that is. And that's a place where I live. And so what she found is that I also had this activation of beta, alpha, theta, and delta in both sides of the brain, left and right hemispheres. Normally, beta is a left brain activity. But the awakened mind state that she studied for many, many years was that presence in both hemispheres of beta, both in alpha, both in theta, and both in delta. And so she was really interested, and she wondered if it's possible that my students would also have that same brainwave and activity. And so we set up a workshop, and I'm so sorry. I have some really interesting pictures, and Kirsten's off, of course, it's Saturday, so I could not get them up in time to show you. But Robin was there, and I can't remember if she was in the first one that we did in 1984 and 85, one or the other. Robin was there, and Eleanor Silverstein was there, and I think she was there in the first one in 1984. And so what we found, Anna was really interested, of course, in measuring the students as they were being TTouched and TTouching, but she was really interested in the what was happening with the horses. And in this book, which is her first book, and there's a second I'm going to share with you, it just came out, or I just found it. And she writes in this book about the study that she did with us in that first year. And what she wrote is about interspecies communication. Let's see where it is. So let's see where this starts. I'm just going to read this to you. It's under the heading of interspecies communication. It's by now, brainwave interrelationships between people may seem like an obvious occurrence. Less understood, but very interesting, is the fact that human beings and animals may also have brainwave interrelationships. The work I've done with interspecies communication and brainwaves involve horses and their riders or trainers. I fell into this work by accident when I met Linda Tellington Jones, an internationally renowned animal expert who developed the Tellington TTouch and founded T-Team, the Tellington Jones Equine Awareness Method, which is what we used to call this work. Linda is also involved in interspecies communication. The first time she came to me for a brainwave profile, I monitored her while she was working on people. In this state, she produced a form of awakened mind brainwave patterns that was heavily weighted with theta brainwaves. I was interested to know if her students had similar patterns, so we set up a test during one of her workshops at a Colorado ranch. I observed that all of the students who had studied the TTouch over a period of time tended to have strong theta and delta brainwaves in a normal waking state. 6 out of the 11 people I measured had near awakened mind patterns in the left hemisphere, and one person had an awakened mind as coherent as Tellington Jones's. The Tellington TTouch involved a special way of pushing in a circular clockwise motion the skin of the horse, other animals, or humans. Tellington Jones told me that although it is hard to give a comprehensive definition of her work, her official description is as follows. Never mind, you all know that. Our next step was obviously to attempt to monitor horses' brainwaves and then to see if we could observe any effect from the TTouch. We found that the basic resting state of the horse was primarily theta and with delta, with occasional flares of alpha. When the TTouch was administered, we got an activation of all 4 categories of brainwaves on the horse. We saw that alpha especially was consistently activated during the TTouch as well as other beta. And I want to tell you about one horse. And I wasn't able to grab that out of my Google Drive to show you today. And I don't know, I should probably put it on my website, because we worked with a 2-year-old thoroughbred mare that was so scattered and so reactive and so difficult that they had decided not to put her in training. They just felt she was impossible. And the thing that was interesting, and we had a lot of hands on these horses. You know, if you've been to a workshop, many workshops with me, we'll have 5 or 6 people working on a horse, and you'd think, how is that possible? All I can tell you is that if you want an amazing experience, get a lot of people to put their hands on you. It's really beautiful. So anyway, what happened with this horse, who had very scattered brainwaves in the beginning, as we did the TTouch on her, she settled and the horse was very different. And of course, all of us who worked with horses have seen this over and over again. Now, when we bring an animal, doesn't matter, horse, dog, cat, any animal, into the body, giving them a sense of safety so you can touch every part of the body. And particularly when you make these circular TTouches, 1 1/4 circular TTouches, there's a level of focus that happens that's very different than if you just kind of go around and around in the same place or rub them or massage them. It's completely different. And I think part of it has to do that we have to stay completely present in that 1 1/4 circle if we're going to actually stop at the quarter. And I think it's our presence that makes such a difference. Now, one of the things that was interesting also, at that time, we weren't measuring theta. And this is kind of what it looks like. And this is when gamma was measured. This is a much later study that's up on the internet now. And at the time, there was no gamma. But, so we did studies with Anna in 1984 and 85 again. And then about 5 or 6 years later, we did something with dogs. And it didn't work at all. And I'm sure, I mean, we were so unfocused. We were at a shelter with a big auditorium. We weren't in a circle. And a lot of people were there with their dogs. And the chaos in the room of was intense. And so we really got no useful measurements whatsoever. But in 2009, Anna wanted to do another study, and she set it up with Robin Bernhardt and Sandy Rakowitz. And here's a picture of me with Sandy. And we are both hooked up to two separate mind mirrors. And Sandy is working on me. Now, we worked both physically on the body to see what would come up on the mind mirror, and also from a distance. And when we were working, visualizing the TTouches, we had an activation of both of us. Our brainwaves matched, and we were in the gamma state. And this gamma brainwave state is what the Dalai Lama's monks are in when they're sending compassion to the world. So for those of you who've been in our courses, and you know that you can work on an animal across the room or across the country or across in another country and have an effective result. Now, the animals can't tell us this, but during COVID, when I was leading people, we were having workshops. We did online workshops with Sandy and Eleanor Silverstein and myself. And when people could not get to their loved ones in the hospital to say goodbye, they could work on them from a distance. And what I recommend when you do that distance work, whether it's with an animal or a person, that you actually do TTouch on yourself as you're visualizing it on another person. At least for me, it makes it much more focused. And so what we got was such beautiful feedback from people who were in another place where they could not make an actual physical connection with someone. So this is why over all these years, this concept of activation of both hemispheres, it's what kept me really passionate about this. And I don't imagine everybody is so interested in it, but this concept that when we visualize anything, this comes from the concept of left and right hemisphere activation. And, you'll anything with music, with art, being in nature and movement, or visualizing. Like that's why when I lead a person in the heart hug, I ask them to imagine that face of the clock is up there on the wall. Look at it, see the numbers on it, and place it on your chest, which is your heart chakra. And let's just do this together right now. And just put one hand over the other and imagine catching your skin very lightly with any part of your hand that is comfortable for you. It doesn't matter which one is on the top. It doesn't matter. And go in the direction that you prefer, starting at 6, and just look at the numbers. Imagine the numbers. I'm going to go clockwise from 6 to 9 to 12. Take a deep breath, go to 3, go to 6, and come back and stop at 9. And if you're going in the other direction, go around and stop at the 3 and smile. The reason the smile is so important is the fact that it's normal for humans to tend to just like frown and hold our breath when we focus on anything. So smiling consciously, and you can do it by thinking of something you really makes you sing. Could be your favorite animal, your favorite person, a place in nature, flower. And when you smile and you bring that into your awareness, what happens is we activate the feel-good hormone, the serotonin. And we affect everything around us. And that's the beautiful work of Heart Math Institute. And if you don't know them, do yourself a favor and look to see what they offer. It's so beautiful. They've just researched over many years the fact that our heart puts out this, connections, vibes, measurable influence, a long way from our bodies. So when we're connecting, like put your heart in your hand and your hand on your animal makes a big difference. Now, the other thing is that I want to say to you about this, when we do these 1 1/4 circles, if you do them really consciously lightly and consciously like 1/4 of a circle, like a little arc from 6 up to 9, and take a deep breath and very lightly, see what happens when you go really lightly. When you do that, that has been shown in a 2,000 person study that is in my sister Robin Hood's and Mandy's book on TTouch for You. It's been shown that the most oxytocin is activated, and oxytocin is the trust hormone, as Dr. Bruce Lipton has dubbed it. And we can, with those light TTouches with our animals or with ourselves, we can activate that trust hormone. So I'm going to stop the share. And I am going to ask now if anybody has any comments or questions, and you can go to the bottom and look under the, where it says reactions, and you can put your hand up, because we have so many people on here, we'll never see them all. So Elisa Dickman, hi.
Hi.
Hi, nice to see
I
you.
have nice to see you.
I'll see this
So
picture. Do you
yes, that's in Israel. That's in Jerusalem.
beautiful.
Thank you. I have 3 small children here, so I have just a quick second where it's quiet. You were saying that when you were activating your right brain, I missed it because one of the kids was talking to me. What did you say, that you wrote your name backwards or something?
Sorry. For one of the exercises in Betty Edwards' book, as I remember it, I read several books, but I think it was her book, Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain. It was just write your name forwards with your left hand and your right hand in the air, and then just imagining it, and then do the same thing backwards. And for months, I would practice that. Writing it backwards.
Fascinating.
Because
And the book's called Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain.
yes, that's the
Thank you
book
so much.
I think it's that one. Somebody else should check it, because that was 1972 when I read it. But
Well,
it's
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, daydreaming, anytime we visualize anything, imagine anything, that activates the right brain. What I haven't said is what's important, and I wish I'd written that in the PowerPoint so we see it in blazoned letters. Why is the right brain important? Because it activates our feeling. That's the first thing I started on. And our creativity. That's a right brain activity. And our compassion. In order to make a difference on this planet, we need compassion for ourselves, our families, our animals, our planet, for all the people who do not have the blessings of being able to be together like this here with us. And the intuition. And I want to share with you, so it's feelings, creativity, compassion, intuition. That's all a right brain activity. That all is activated by visualization, by journeying, by movement, art, music, walking in nature, visualizing walking in nature. And all those things are important for our survival on the planet. And this concept of being a mensch, a human being, that means this activation of weaving the left and right hemispheres. And it's interesting, I made this movement like this. One of the things that I have discovered, if you're working with rescue animals, that I know many of you have, and when you come to the place, or you come to a shelter or a place with horses, if you just make this really quiet movement. It's this infinity sign. You can stand in front of a group of horses, or doesn't matter, or at the shelter with dogs. Breathe, smile, think of something for which you're really grateful, and just move your hands really quietly like this, and turning it, and it's like a long figure 8. I have videos of me, we should actually, Marnie, get them on here, of me doing this with it in front of a gaggle of geese who are like really talking. And in less than 30 seconds, I'm just standing there smiling and doing this, and they're totally quiet. And we did this with another group of pigs at feeding time in Germany. It was very cool. And they make a lot of, they talk a lot and get totally quiet. And I think the most interesting one, but I don't think we have a video of this, Marnie, is with that kitten at one of the shelters. Remember, we were doing a workshop in Austin at a shelter in a cattery. And there was one young female, around 9 months old, who'd just been brought in. So she was alone, isolated, and we couldn't work with her. And everybody was saying, oh, it's so terrible, because she was hanging on the side of the, the wire, and just like screaming at the top of her voice, like, help, let me out here, do something to me. And everybody was really upset because we couldn't touch her. And I just did this. And the big thing is not to feel sorry for her, but to know that, wait a minute, we can bring her to a place of peace. And in less than a minute, her eyes closed and she sunk down and lay down instead of hanging on the wire. And just know that we can even do that if you are somebody who's working with at shelters. Before you walk in a shelter, you can do this even on the way at home now, or in the car on the way, or just when you get out. And what I like to do, encourage you to do, is when you're standing with your feet on the ground, like, just imagine sweeping down and sweeping the breath of the earth up through your body and send it out to the universe. That's another exercise that I did for many months when I first started this in 72 with this whole thing. Just imagining being a part of the whole cosmos in this way and feeling the breath of the earth. And you can even visualize doing that. We don't have to even stand up and do it, but there's something about that movement as you imagine bringing the earth up through your body and then going the opposite way, going to the outer edges of the universe, and bring this right down to the top of your head, down through your body and into Mother Earth. So I would like to open this up to more comments or questions. How you have realized, or when you think about the fact that this activation of our whole brain is really makes a difference on the planet. Let's see if we've got any hands up. I want to share something that I have just discovered in my life in the last month, and it's a life changer. It's not a game changer, it's a life changer. And that is free YouTube. And I have found the most beautiful Zen meditations, monks playing the flute, the stone flute, just one of my favorite. And when we bought this home, it had a huge TV on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, really? But I can go and just ask Alexa to bring up YouTube. And on YouTube, you can find the most beautiful music of the universe. And I love classical music. And actually, somehow, Alexa makes up a collection of my favorites. So it's combined with classical music and meditation music. And what they have are these images. It's one thing to listen to music. It's completely different when the room is filled with these beautiful pictures of waterfalls and rivers and forests that you can walk in with paths in the forest. So all these visualizations, that combined with the TTouch on your body to connect with this divine consciousness in every cell in our body, it's a miracle that we can do with ourselves every day and on our animals. So I would like to hear any of your questions or thinking.
Do you want to tell them how to raise their hand if they don't know?
Oh, I thought I did. So down at the bottom, go to reactions, right in the middle of the bottom of your screen. It's a little smiley face with a little plus. Click on that and you can see, you can raise your hand. And I would love to hear feedback from any of you who have any questions about TTouch or any questions or any experiences you've had with doing TTouch to calm your heart hugs to calm yourself, or you can do it on your animals too, dogs, horses, kitties. It also works. Monica, hi, nice to see you. Let's see, I'm going to make you so I can see you a little bigger. Okay. If you speak, tell us about yourself. Where are you?
Hi, I'm in San Ynez, California, near Santa Barbara.
Okay, hi.
And hi, I love your work, Linda. I've read just about all your books. I haven't had an opportunity to go to one of your workshops yet, but I'm a doctor of chiropractic and I do cranial sacral, zero balancing, and I love to learn more about Feldenkrais with horses. Where can I do that? Do you have many resources? Are you a resource? I just think that Feldenkrais, I use it in my practice a lot and I just love it.
Well, the thing is that what we've adapted are these circular T-touches so that, you know, the concept with the Feldenkrais, what Feldenkrais did for me is in the second day of my training at the Humanistic Psychology Institute in San Francisco, there are 63 of us lying on the floor, and Moshe is leading us through an awareness through movement. And he made a statement that completely changed my life with horses. I mean, I at that point was 36 years old and I'd been working with horses and training since I was very young. And he made a statement that a human can learn in one experience using gentle, non-habitual movements that activate new neural pathways to the brain that actually give us more potential for learning by activating more brain cells. And when he said that, I was lying there and I felt like my ears perked up like a horse. And I thought, hold on a minute, if this is true for a human, could that be true for a horse? And so that afternoon after class, I went out and I worked with a 16-year-old mare who had the very bad habit, frustrating habit of having to be chased, to be caught, to be brought into the stable to eat, which doesn't make any sense. But she had just come down from Montana the month before with a group of Arabs, Arabians, and she'd never been ridden. So anyway, the owner caught her up, and I just started looking at her from the point of view, wait a minute, what could I do with this horse that movement that she could not do herself that would activate unused new neural pathways to the brain? And you see, we had already written a book called Physical Therapy and Massage for the Athletic Horse years before, but I never thought about awareness, the idea that we could activate new neural pathways, never crossed our minds. And so as I was doing these movements that we'd been doing for years, I was doing it with a new intention. And intention is such an important point of energy, because energy is every thought we have. So every thought we have, every feeling, every emotion, and every belief, that's energy, and that affects everything we do. And for any of you who are interested and don't know that, the book by Lynn McTaggart, The Intention Experiment, is full of these research studies that have been done by huge studies in big universities that show how our intention affects even machinery. even research, of course. So when we put intention behind something, the intention to make a difference, a positive difference, however that is for that person. So I'm really careful when I'm working to help somebody or an animal. It's not my intention that I personally make a difference. My intention is to support or activate that phenomenal intelligence in every cell in our body that knows its ideal function. And I learned that from the work of Sir Charles Sherrington, Nobel Prize winner, in his book, Man on His Nature. That's affected my entire training with the Feldenkrais work, is looking at the intention, the amazing intelligence and knowledge that every cell in the body knows its function in the body. And that's
Wonderful.
behind every circular TTouch. And the fact that in the 1 1/4 circles, which is what we do, that is the same, this sacred spiral that's in all of nature, and it's the same shape as our DNA. And that's why I believe when you apply TTouch, 1 1/4 circles to yourself, your animals, or people, it's like turning a key that opens a door to enter that intelligent that we are. And, we forget that this body we carry that carries our soul is a vehicle for that intelligence. And when we recognize that every cell in the body knows its function in the body, when it's functioning in an ideal state, it's like we're like miracles. And I love some of the researchers, what they're talking about now, because there are countless functions of the cells that are totally known and researched. But there's one function that is not known, and it's called the, oh, come on, Linda. Blank for a moment. Command central. That's the part that they can't. And I just love this book. It's in the Song of the Cells. And
Oh,
this is-
yeah.
and you know that, and in it, I'm trying to find an actual page where they call it Command Central, because it's so interesting. This is a collection of research from the 1600s and on cellular, on cells. So that's the thing is with the Feldenkrais work, there are various people who teach Feldenkrais for horses. I
Okay.
don't, you have to look it up. What we do is
Yeah.
do a combination. All of the work that we do on the ground exercises is based on on new non-habitual movements. That's what we do with the Tellington method for horses. So, Donna, hi. Thank you, Monica.
Hi.
Hi, Donna.
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm glad to see you're doing well. I do heart TTouches and ear TTouches every time I'm in a stressful situation on myself. I do them on my dogs, but I had to have some major surgery, and I rarely have surgery or go to the doctors. And they had the IV in wrong, and it was hurting so badly that I started to cry. Well, I started to just do ear TTouches, and surprisingly, my husband jumped up and started doing them on my other ear. And I calmed myself down so much that I got up out of the chair, walked myself to the surgical suite, jumped up on the table by myself, and then they realized the IV wasn't wrong. But it calmed me down enough that I was able to say, okay, I can do this. Got up and walked to the surgery room, didn't take the wheelchair, got up on the table myself. So it really does seem to work for me, I think.
Right. Oh, I mean, we have thousands of case studies showing that with this ear TTouch that applied to these little tiny circles and little slides on every part of the ear, that affects our entire body. And right in this little groove, you see this little conch area of the ear right there at the top of my finger. That's a point for heart and lungs. And so anything that when you're having a problem, and Donna, practice coming a little slightly upwards instead of down. Down is a downer, energy-wise, just slightly upward. And you can reduce pain. You can bring a person or an animal out of shock or keep them out of shock. while you're waiting for medical help, or if you can't get it, you can reduce the pain and the fear. And it's helped so many animals and people over the years. And actually, this feels really good. I invite you all to do this. Like, put your thumb behind your ear. I start at the lobe, look like do 1 1/4 circle, and then a slide up of my forefinger, slightly upward, I consider about 15 degrees, slightly upward. Then I go in that little bowl right there. That gets my heart, lungs, and slightly, and be careful as you come over the rim of the ear, don't snap off, like slide off between the thumb and forefinger. And then come a little higher. And because right in that area, that's where the vagus nerve connects in. And that affects our heart, our lungs, our whole intestinal area, everything within this pelvic cradle. That's all affected right there. And then look, feel behind your ear. There's a little divot right behind your ear. You feel it with your thumb. It's a little depression. That's when the trigeminal nerve comes in, and that affects all of the nerves, our chin, our mouth, our nose, our eyes, all the way up our head here. And you can stop a migraine right in this whole area with the gentlest TTouches, 1 1/4 circles, and then go all the way up to the top. And this affects the entire body. Feels really good. And just listening, sitting on Zoom and listening, that makes us tired from focusing, and this will give you energy and just like wake you up. And if you can't sleep at night, do the ear TTouches slowly, and you won't be able to do too many of them before you sleep. Donna, thank you for sharing that. I would love to hear any of the stories with our animals. Those of you who are using TTouch with your animals, or anybody who has practiced with the heart hug on your horses, dogs, or cats. Karen, hi. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. Well, I've spoken before sometimes about the mule deer that I have that live with me. And this year was a transition of generations. And one of the main bucks, he left and hasn't ever come back. He decided it was his time to go. And one of the matriarchs, who I called Mama Pierce, who's had 6 sets of twins over the years in my yard and has raised them here, finally had one single baby this summer, but it was her time to go. And the weather turned really cold here early on, and I built a hay bed under a portion of my deck that I could crawl under and she could walk under, and she would sleep under there a lot on the cold nights. And we had a really hard snow, and that next morning her baby was lying under there with her. And I went down to feed horses, and when I came back, the baby was out, but her head was just thrown to the side, and I knew it was her time to go. And I crawled under there and straightened her head and neck out, but she was so weak at that point that she couldn't raise or lift her head. And I sat with her and started telling her how much I appreciated what she's given me all these years and how honored I've been to watch her raise her babies. And she started to struggle like with her legs, like she was trying to crawl to get up. And I just started doing TTouches all over her face and her ears and down her neck and around her heart, and just calming her. And within minutes, she just calmed and started breathing sort of regularly. And she just kept staring up at me with the eye that was up on that side of her face. And it was just amazing how she would stop scrambling with her legs. And I know I promised her that her little baby would always have a place here to stay and not to worry. And so I had to get up and get some horse blankets for the horses. And as I was passing by her one last time, I thanked her again and told her how much I loved her. And she actually took one of her big muley ears and waved it at me as I passed by. And then I went to check on her about a minute later and she had passed on. But it was so wonderful to be able to sit under there because she was struggling. Death by natural cause is not easy, and she was really struggling with it. And I was just glad to be able to be under there with her and have my working TTouches that, you know, you've gifted to all of us for that. So thank you.
Thank you. It's so beautiful to know that we have that in a way that can help to ease the passing. And what's happened with the fawn?
Well, there were twins from the year before, Buckaroo and Bonnie, and they took her in under their wings almost immediately.
Interesting.
And they come to visit, you know, every day. And it was so cute because the three of them would come walking up the path to the backyard, and Bonnie would be in the front and little Sally would be in the middle, and Buckaroo bringing up and he's just a yearling buck. So he just has two little spikes, you know, but he was the big man, like, okay, I'm bringing up the girls. And since then he's gone off to be with his other boy friends and deer herd. And then Bonnie and Sally come almost daily. And then I've got, this morning there were 9 in the yard. There's 7 that come, and there's CG with her little friend or her little baby that I call Lamb Chop because she has such a pug little deer face. She looks like a little lamb. And then a couple of other does, and there's 3 bucks. And one of the bucks is a 2-year-old that was the son of Mama Pierce and Cinco, who left this year. And it was interesting because it was almost like Cinco was giving him guidance and instruction in the fall, knowing he would be gone. And the 2-year-old, who I call Bart, would now become the patriarch of this family. And it was so sweet because last night he came in and I put a little bit of goat food on the ground for them. And I peeked around the corner and he was eating, and 2 little bunny rabbits were eating with him right out of the same pile. He's such a gentle. So yeah, I'm really blessed to have the company of them.
Thank you for sharing that beautiful story with us.
Thank you.
Love it. So, do we have any other stories that you'd like to share how you've used TTouch with your animals? And perhaps you can share for Monica, those of you horse people, Lindsay Decker, would you be willing to share a horse story? Lindy's one of our Tellington instructors from South Africa, who's been teaching this work for horses and dogs for many, many years. And tell her what this can do for horses, perhaps. Lindsay, if you're still with us. Or anyone else who know it from the horse world. Pam, if Lindsay's not here, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I can do that. Hello. I have a heart hub story that I've worked with me to work on a horse, or I have some ear TTouch when I've been in the horse ICU.
Well, what I'd love, actually, I'd like to introduce you because Pam Dietz has been a Tellington TTouch practitioner for 30 years approximately, and she's also a Feldenkrais practitioner. And so perhaps you could just, your choice, Pam, what kind of story you'd like to tell, how we use this work with horses.
I'll do a horse ICU TTouch one. With one of the barns I work in, a lot of sometimes when their horses colic, they end up in the equine ICU center for colic or colic surgery. And one particular mare was really agitated and circling the stall, and they couldn't get her to calm down. And she was in a lot of pain. And I worked on her at the barn, so I knew her. And I came into the stall and I just tried to be quiet because she was so agitated. And I was slowly able to just kind of walk with her and then just start doing some off the body TTouch, just some circles. And she quieted down. I was able to do TTouch on her shoulder and her neck, and then work with her ears, and then just do some gentle, like, like troika, look at the cow's tongue, some TTouch like that. And she calmed down, she rested, she drank some water. And I walked out of the stall, and the vets there said, "We don't know what you did, but her pulse and respiration came down," because she was on monitors and they have cameras. And, so then you try to explain TTouch. But it's even in a situation that seems so difficult that, just having that, how you were talking about with the heart hug, Linda, having this quietness. And for me, just this experience that it does help. Maybe not all the time, but there's usually something you can do. And I take that with me every time, especially when I go to the equine hospital.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you so much. We get to share a lot, Pam and Marnie and I. And Pam works pretty much weekly at a dressage barn with physical and emotional and behavioral issues with TTouch. So, any last question you'd like before I close this? Maggie, hi. Maggie Powell has also been one of our wonderful, very experienced horsewomen for many, many years with TTouch. Maggie, do you have a story for us today?
Thanks. I do. First off, my mother was a landscape artist, and when I was young, she wandered out of her studio and had just done an abstract, and I noticed her pupils were dilated. And later in life, I'm an artist as well, and I looked in the mirror when I'd be creating, and my pupils were dilated. And you might want to look it up, because now I'm more aware with the Tellington work of breathing and licking and chewing when the horses are relaxing into the work, and I look at their pupils and they're more dilated. So there was a horse named Irish, and Robin had quite a bit of experience with him over a year period at our barn in the desert, and he came on a month trial off the racetrack for one of my clients. And I thought, you can't touch him anywhere, they have to tranquilize him for shoeing, what are we doing? But we have a whole month. And with the Tellington work, I was about 3 years into it, 93, I think. And so I had him to myself for the first few weeks. The client just said, "Do your work." And with a bare hand, it was not okay. With the back of my hand, I could do a circle and a quarter with the back of my hand. And I just put the cross ties where our driving lines, loose, not tied up in the cross ties, just there. And then with the blue service rag, he would let me do the circular touch. And so I worked in lines, and then lick at the cow's tongue. Yes, he liked that. And left side was okay, right side became okay. And he needed shoes 3 weeks in, and my farrier came, and I told him, he knew me well, and he stood perfectly quietly. And so it was that gift of the month with no huge goal, and me with your tools. And that horse transformed Irish. I remember that second year when Robin came back, she said, "Do you have any beginner horses that anybody could ride?" And he was only 5.5 at that point or something. And we brought Irish out, and the beginners were riding him around. And she ended up out on the polo field with a new boyfriend, galloping with him. And, an off the track thoroughbred who was out of his mind when we started. So it was all because of the TTouch. Totally
Great.
transformed the horse.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Maggie. Yeah, we've just seen it so often, haven't we, with so many horses. So I'm going to screen share this a moment again, because I wanted, let's see. I just wanted to show you, because we have a lot of new people on here. This is, you can join us on Facebook on the Tellington TTouch community. Those of you who are on here got a notice thing. If you're not a member of the community, for $9.95 a month, you can join us and get many, many webinars and videos and so much information in the library. And then if you have any questions, you can go into the community and and ask questions on Facebook. And in the TTouch world, those of you who are not members of the community, we have tips in this all the time. And On the Go is another one of our Facebook sites that Shannon comes up with all kinds of stuff, sharing of what I'm doing around the world. So with that, next week, I haven't decided what subject I'm going to bring up, but it's going to be, we'll see what, is thrown up for me. One thing that I am going to do, I'm going to share some experience, share a little bit of information at the end of it. Those of you who want to stay on, about the Beamer and what it's done for me and what it's done for horses. So we'll have some interesting experiences and cases with that. And for those of you also, let's see, I want you to know, I have to go down to the next slide. If you go to learn.ttouch.ca, that's our Canadian website. And if you don't know this work, you can sign up for a free introduction to the work, or we have different workshops for dogs and horses. And I'm going to be starting a master class again, my second one. And it's not just, you don't have to be a master at it. It's tips on all this tips and inspiration working with your horses. It's going to be a 3-month-long course, and it's up there right now, actually. I think Mandy put it up. If it's not up now, it'll be up Tuesday, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We've had wonderful feedback from our others, and if you're on today, you get this 20% discount code, save 20, and you just put it in on the courses, on any of the courses that you want to join on that. And so that's wrap it up for today. It's been a blessing. Let's end together. I'm going to stop the share, and let's end by doing a heart hug. Just to catch the skin in the direction you prefer, moving 1 1/4 times around. And let's send out great deep appreciation to Mother Earth and all the people on the planet who don't have the blessings that we have of being together like this in our lives, and to all of the animals. And let's send one heart hug actually into this amazing body of trillions of cells that have this divine consciousness that allow us to see, to breathe, to control this command central in our body. It's a divine spark and light in every cell in our body. And let's send that knowing out to the planet, and know that when we do this, we make a positive difference. So blessings on you all. And actually, I have one other thing I want to share with you. It's something that has come into my life this week, and it was an answer to a prayer. Marnie, if you could write in the chat, go to www.keys.com. This is the work of Richard Rudd, R-U-D-D. He's on Facebook. You can find him on YouTube. And if you go to that website and go to the top, and it says free resource. Maggie, I know you would love this. I know many of you would love this if you haven't already, if I haven't talked to you about it. And you can you put in your birth date and place and time of birth. And you can get back within like less than a minute, you'll get back 3 keys that is your life's purpose, and the what you're doing here, your work on the planet, and your relationships. And it's based on the I Ching, but it's work of Richard Rudd over many years. And it's been it was the answer to my prayer, because it also gives you the shadow side, what we need to work on to be able to actualize what we came here, the work we came here to do. And my primary key is 52. That's they call it what is it here? It's my life's purpose. And that is to share what I know and do with you all. So if any of you are interested, by the way, I forgot to say this. I don't even have this up there. Oh my God. You can go to TTouch.com and you can sign up and come on with us on Tuesdays for 2 hours, live with Linda and friends with TTouch for self-care. And it's really worth coming on to. So I look forward to seeing some of you down the trail. And Michaela, lovely always to see you. Have a blessed rest of your day, and may the force be with you. Aloha. Stop the recording.